Coming up today on Locked On Texas Tech, all the 4th of July puns and analogies a man can handle as we light the fuse and talk combustion, explosion, and home run hitters. Next on Locked On Texas Tech.
You are Locked On Texas Tech, your daily podcast on the Texas Tech Red Raiders. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
We're going to start this thing off right. Raider! Everything runs through Lubbock.
Great to see you again on Locked On Texas Tech on the Locked On Podcast Network. Always appreciate being your first listen on YouTube or anywhere you get podcasts. Today's episode brought to you by FanDuel Sportsbook, the official sportsbook of Locked On. Make every moment more by visiting FanDuel.com/LockedOn today to get started. He's the only Chris Level. I'm Casey Cowan, kicking off a new week and not just any other week. Happy 4th of July week, Chris, and all those who celebrate. Great to be back with you, man, and an explosive time of year. And that's what we're talking about today. Explosion on the field for Joey McGuire and the Red Raiders. We're going to get to some of Texas Tech's most explosive names heading into 2023 as we see it. And Chris, we're hoping there's a lot more of this this upcoming season. We spent some time this offseason talking about needing home run hitters, and maybe you got a chance to have a few more of those this year.
Where you at on 4th of July parades, man?
Been a little while since I've been to a 4th of July parade. I don't really care for a big city parade, and you may laugh at me if you hear me calling Lubbock a big city, but hometown parades, I'm all about it. Seeing my man Garland Coons, he was 95 my entire life, was 95 when I was born, was 95 when I left Littlefield, Texas, America. And my guy Garland will be riding down that street with a horse that was slightly out of control, playing a trumpet for us all to enjoy. I mean, I've said this before. I come from a place that had parades featuring Waylon Jennings, Uncle Jesse, and Santa Claus all at the same time. So,
and probably like a fire truck.
Of course,
you know. I mean, some yeah.
I feel like I'm hearing some angst in your voice as it relates.
No,
to parades.
not at all. I just the parade is just an interesting. It's an interesting activity for a variety of folks. I've never been to like the 4th on Broadway parade or whatever. It's always, I feel like it's 157 degrees at all times, and you know. And there's just nowhere to hide in that section of where that parade is. And I'm just like, I'll stay home and watch the hot dog eating contest, which is terrible television too. But I just, anyway, so yeah, be careful if you're going out there to a parade tonight, tomorrow, whatever you've got going here with the 4th looming, and be careful about how you spend your money at the fireworks stand too. I mean, there's a lot of wasted. A lot of wasted funds and hard work just kind of literally going up in flames right there.
Wasted?
Yeah, if you just that too.
Wasted.
Too. Yeah.
Hey, as a former Mr. W Fireworks stand employee turned manager, I'm taking umbrage. If you can see this look on my face, this is a look of umbrage that I'm taking with you go out there and you spend all your money on those fireworks,
I guess
folks.
We may have competed against each other. I ran a TNT. I ran a TNT stand for a couple of years way back in the day. Absolutely.
I always loved to meet a fellow stand man. One way or another.
Almost lit ours on fire on accident.
Yes.
Not good.
My grandfather had to write a personal check to a nearby farmer after a cousin of mine lit a field on fire shooting a bottle rocket at a hay bale. He wasn't a smart kid. What can I say? It runs in the family. I got my first tetanus shot out at a Mr. W fireworks stand, or as a result of jumping off of a Mr. W fireworks stand. Many, many great times.
A rusty nail sticking out of some plywood. Yeah.
I'll allow some room for TNT. Make it Mr. W or make it TNT if you're going out.
There you go.
And do what many of my friends in Littlefield, Texas, America, the Pearl of the Plains, did once upon a time when they'd show up and they'd write that personal check at the stand, Chris. If they were farmers, what would it say in the memo? Farm supplies. And of course it's farm supply. How else do you get rid of gophers without artillery shells? Speaking of artillery shells, Chris, that's the kind of explosion we're talking about today when we get to these names. We're not talking about sparklers, your little fountains. We're not talking about snakes or whatever. We're talking artillery shells. We're talking the big guns. Gah, 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 gah. You know what I'm saying? And I know that you remember these conversations we had leaving the year when we would talk about like upcoming, Dre McCray. Hey, get familiar with this name. Could be a Red Raider, and maybe he's one that's going to be explosive. And I want to go back to what I said a moment ago and see what you think about it. I think you've added some that fit that profile this offseason. I do kind of anticipate next year maybe for you to have more big play capability on the offensive side of the ball. I think you've kind of achieved maybe what you set out to do this offseason in that regard.
Playing off of the whole July 4th theme, the most explosive players on your team, you would like to be in a position where this list was very difficult to put together because there were so many options. And like you're making arguments for a variety of different players. And you're not quite there yet on, some no-brainers. You're not really there yet. You're not really, it's not really no-brainer in that, oh man, I don't know who I'm going to pick. There's so many to choose from. That's just not the case as far as this particular category, like juice, speed. And you're adding to it. And they know that, look, when some of these recruiting classes that have showed up or that are committed on paper, there's a lot of speed that is starting to show up, and it's just not upper class yet, and so
Gotcha.
we're left to deal with the players that you're dealing with. But I think Jerron Bradley isn't necessarily the fastest guy, okay? But I do think explosive, and I think big play potential is certainly there based on how he finished the season with, he's a freshman All-American. I think he had a really good bowl game. I think he had a really good game versus Oklahoma, if memory serves. And again, I wouldn't call him like necessarily twitchy or fast, but I think there's some explosive capabilities there. I think, Miles Price we know that this player checks these boxes.
Yeah.
However, when you got a busted tire, it takes away everything that that you are about and that you're good at, because his change of direction is just, he was flawed last year because he couldn't really go, Cowan.
Yeah. You got a bad fuse. Let's stick with the fireworks analogies.
Yeah, there you go. Hey, which it was tricky, man, when you're like lighting those firecrackers up and it's like it just kind of fizzles out.
Right.
You're like, okay, did it really fizzle out, or is it just delayed, or what do you got going?
That's the most dangerous game,
yeah,
right
it's
there.
like you walk up right there with your eyes covered, and like, so ooh.
Dud or no dud. That's when you want the long lighter.
Be careful. Or what is it? The punk. Like you light the little, the little punk thingy that burns slowly.
Or if you're really doing it right, you got that Marlboro. You got that Marlboro you're sticking down there, right? That's the OG, triple OG one.
Like Kramer in Times Square.
Yeah. Just a barrel of memories.
And his lawyer is just absolutely disgusted. Jackie Childs.
Childs. Shout out to Jackie. I see what you're saying about Brad. I think those are the two guys you got to start the conversation with, because those are the two who are proven commodities in Red Raider uniforms. And I would, like you're kind of alluding to there, even say Price is probably number one on that list as far as guys that, if he can be healthy, get on the field.
Yeah.
Man, he can be lightning in a bottle. There's no question about that. But I was interested in some of the other names you included as well. We'll get to the newcomer coming up in just a minute. But, guys like Fungi or guys like Nehemiah Martinez showed some big play capability, and maybe even Martinez a little bit more consistently than Fungi. But those are guys that I feel like maybe aren't quite yet in that category, but have the potential to step into that category. Would love to see it. And especially, I think Martinez is a really interesting one, Chris, because of the way that we've, discussed him being used in a variety of ways. Can be someone there as a pass catcher or maybe even a ball carrier on occasion.
Yeah, so let's attack Lubbock first.
But first, today's episode brought to you by FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook and the official sportsbook of Locked On. And right now is the perfect time to take your first swing and bet with FanDuel, because you could get 10 times your first bet amount back in bonus bets, up to $200. That's right. Just bet 20 and you're landing $200 in bonus bets, win or lose. That's $200 you can spend betting everything from the money line, over-unders, or anything in between, all on an app that's safe, secure, and easy to use. Download it today in the App Store or head on over to FanDuel.com/lockedon to get started. And of course, when you're a winner with FanDuel, you're getting paid instantly. Just one of the many reasons why FanDuel is America's #1 sportsbook. So sign up today and visit FanDuel.com/lockedon to get up to $200 in bonus bets, win or lose. That's FanDuel.com/lockedon, and start the fun today with FanDuel, official partner of Major League Baseball.
Yeah, so let's attack Lubbock first. This is a player that is legitimately fast. I think if you watch him in the spring game, he lit it up. I think that when healthy, he played really, really well at the tail end. But it all equals just under 500 yards receiving, 3 touchdowns. His biggest deal is, can he be durable enough and consistent enough to be something that is a weapon on you week to week? That's really his issue. But as far as explosiveness or speed, yeah, I mean, and I was around him, I don't know, a week or two ago, I guess it would have been, and he looks great. And it's just, there's always like a groin or a hamstring or something like that. That's just his biggest, issue. Unfortunately, that's kind of the book on Lubbock, is that big time recruit. When he's healthy, plays really well. He looks the part, but just not available to you near enough to have sustained success. And that's my wish for him this year, is that he can do that, because I think you'll really like the results if he can. It's kind of like Tyler Shuck in some ways.
Yeah, I see what you're saying. And Fungy's one of those guys, like, get off the bus guy.
Yes.
You've seen him and you're always like, whoa, why are we not seeing more of this dude whenever the clock is ticking? And we see flashes, but yeah, want to see him take that next step. I don't know if I would consider Martinez just a fast straight line guy. I don't know what it is that makes him big play capable, but there's elusiveness there of some kind.
Yeah, so it's interesting as I started to think about like our conversation and putting this together, and I bounce it off a few people that I whose opinion I trust. And because I guess at the onset, I'm thinking, okay, Cameron Valdez is a no-brainer to add on this list. And I think, kind of like Lubbock, in that Cameron Valdez has always kind of been dinged up a little bit. The thing about Valdez is that he's not straight line fast. He's going to be real quick in space, not like Miles Price, but just like a 1 or 2 steps, and then he's going to be really fast for about 20 yards. But then just generally faster guys are going to be able to catch up to him. Okay, so if you follow what I'm saying.
Yeah.
It's a different look. It's definitely faster than like Taj and Sir Roderick, but he's not going to win. He's not a 10-2, 10-3, 10-4, 100-meter type guy is Cameron Valdez. But in terms of Nehemiah Martinez, I think Nehemiah Martinez really put himself in an ideal situation coming out of spring. He really showcased his ability to be a running back. And I'd be willing to tell you that the list is extremely short of people that are respected more than Nehemiah Martinez on that team and in the locker room, because he may be pound for pound one of the toughest guys there is. He's an alpha. I've got some stories of him in high school that it crack you up on just kind of. He will test other people's authority. He demands respect. He earns it and all that, but he doesn't say a whole lot. He's just a tough, really good football player. But this is a player that's going to play running back and slot receiver. And I think he's going to excel at both. But I think what surprised the staff this past spring is that, man, he's really good at running back. And I think that was kind of so – I'll be willing to tell you it's not really just like a 1-2 punch at running back this year with Taj and Cameron Valdez. I mean, it's Nehemiah Martinez's name belongs in that conversation as well. And he's somewhere in between, like a Taj and Saradrick, like tough in between the tackles type runner and some speed, because I think he's added, he's maybe dropped a little bit of weight. He's added, he adds a speed component to it. So he's not like somebody that's just going to, run away from a ton of folks, but he's not slow by any means. Don't misunderstand what I'm saying. But because he's faster than I think like the Taj and Saradrick, he's just not. But I think explosiveness, I think he belongs in this conversation. And I think that it's fun to kind of watch his career kind of blossom because he's waited his turn. This is what we all want for like college basketball guys or certain quarterbacks or something. Nehemiah Martinez is like he walked on it, 2 years ago, played a little bit, then played a little bit more last year, and now it's kind of his time, And I think he's still not a starter per se, but I think he's worked his way in on special teams and all that stuff. So spent a lot of time talking about him, but he's an interesting addition to this list for a variety of reasons.
Yeah, the variety is intentional there because this dude can be someone that really is hitting them 6 ways from Sunday. And he's not the only one. I hope we're seeing some other guys like this in years to come and maybe even this season who can do some things as the offensive possession rolls on, do some things in different capacities that really can catch the defense off guard or at minimum keep them on their heels. But let's talk about one of the prized gets, the prized additions of the offseason, and the guy that maybe just out and out could lead this list if he had been a Red Raider for a year. But you want to talk lightning in a bottle, we got to talk Dre McCray. Excited to see him for the first time on the field in a Red Raider uniform coming up this fall. Kind of hard to gauge what to expect, Chris, but I know this is the one that months ago when we were talking, hey, you're looking for speed, you're looking for explosiveness. This is the name that you brought up, and luckily he chose to be a Red Raider, and maybe somebody that can really pair well with some of these other guys that we've mentioned to get the offense off the field a little quicker, and not in a third down kind of way, but a big play home run hitter kind of way, man. It's always more difficult when you got to sustain those drives, just more opportunities for things to go wrong. We all know that. And we're hoping that guys like Dre McCray will ease that burden a little bit.
Yeah, I mean, you think about what was involved there whenever you were trying to get him. Florida State, I think Oregon tried to make a run. There was some legit competition here, but it's because he's all about juice. I think that you think about his team playing Alabama a year ago, I guess, and he had, I think, 110, 111 yards receiving against Alabama. Which, if that doesn't impress you, then I don't know what else I could tell you. But he's somebody that I think this spring, he is somebody that they threw everything at him. And I think it slowed it. Look, it wasn't, hey, let's just, because we want to see what he's good at, let's just leave him somewhere and keep it simple and just let him run. No, they threw everything at him. And I think it slowed him down mentally because this is part of the price of you're having to pay for training him at inside, outside, multiple spots and things like that, trying to create some versatility. So there's going to be a payoff here. Because, see, if it's me, man, I'd be like, just line him up at the one spot and just tell him to run a vert every time down. And and let's just play with our fancy toy, Go deep. Go deep.
Exactly.
Yes. And then we can wow everybody. But instead they really tried to let him see a variety of different things. And I think it took him a bit to kind of get caught up with it. And so you didn't really see the best of him yet. This is a different kind of – when he's healthy and right, you don't have this guy on your team other than him. We talk Lubbock fast. This is a bit of a different deal here. I don't know what time he would run or whatever. I'm just telling you, in a football uniform, he can get behind yours and Big 12 defenses regularly, and he's a threat to score anytime he touches the football. And I think that is what you've kind of missed. And I think they'll try to get him a variety of touches in a variety of different ways, just because he is a game breaker of sorts. He probably has the most potential of anybody on this list, and there's a reason why you kind of dropped what you were doing back around bowl game time and we're like, we need to be in the Dre McCray business. We know this player. We've had people that coached him before, and we know what our issues are, and he can help fix some of
it. 12 attempts as a ball carrier last year, came fairly consistently throughout the season. So somebody else to keep in mind in that regard. And before we leave McCray, Chris, is he somebody that could impact the return game? Because he was used there to a degree as well. Do you think he gets that kind of chance, either punt return or kick return at any point?
I would not rule that out. I think you have a variety of fun options there. And so is he that much better than some of your other options? I think that remains to be seen. But I mean, I think because for years Texas Tech has kind of been in the, hey man, just field the punt, for example. Like let's not try to worry about the return as much as let's field it so we don't give the ball back. So Adrian Fry kind of fit that bill, because there was just a time when you just didn't have a lot of guys that were super sure-handed about it. It's a skill now. I mean, it's pretty scary. And then then even the kick return aspect of it is something that sometimes teams elect. I think Tech elected to return it more often than I guess in some ways I was comfortable with. You end up getting tackled at the 19 where you could have just waved it off and taken it at the 25, no harm, no foul. And so that's an interesting question, though. But I mean, I think McCray would be in that mix. Yes.
God, I hope we leave the era of just field the punt. This is the home of Wes Welker, damn it. We should never, ever be in that state of being. We need lightning as a punt returner year in and year out. Maybe we'll get some of that in 2023. Okay, we're sticking with this explosive conversation next, but we're turning to the other side of the line of scrimmage. Defensively, what are we thinking as far as home run hitters? Next on Locked On Texas Tech. Thanks for making Locked On Texas Tech a part of your day, whenever, wherever, however you're doing it. We appreciate it. Subscribe on YouTube or anywhere you get podcasts so you never miss an episode. Coming at you from the great state with Chris, I'm Casey, and wrapping up our explosive conversation today, Chris, on the defensive side of the football. We've been talking about some of the most explosive Red Raiders, or those we anticipate to be that heading into 2023. On the offensive side of the football, maybe a return to the Afros gang, America's finest receivers on Saturday. That was a glorious period in Texas Tech explosive offense history. But for now, let's focus in on Tim DeRuyter's guys. And I was kind of curious before we get to a name or two here, Chris, what your first thought was when you thought defensive explosion. Is it a ball hawking defensive back who can take it the other way in an instant? Is it a QB hunter that's impacting every snap and making a quarterback fear for his life? What came to mind for you when you were thinking about how you define an explosive defensive player? Steve
Linton. I think when you the word explosive, I think that, you hear the word twitchy, you hear the word, elite level hand placement. I mean, just different things. I think he's got ability to be kind of that edge pressure guy. I'm factoring in all the things that Coach Blanchard, Coach McGuire, and everybody has said. I'm factoring in that he's added a little bit of weight to his frame and kept his speed, which allows him to be actually more explosive and more physical and play the run and things like that. But he's a Tyree Wilson replacement, and I think that's
No pressure.
That is about as heavy a praise but I mean, I saw it with my own eyes in the spring. There was a time in that red and black game, man, it's like one step and he is like to the quarterback. And Coach Kitley was always talking about, man, he goes like when we were alive and it was non-structured and it was like all bets are off. We can blitz, we can do whatever we want. I can run any play that I want, on offense, whatever. He's like, we were calling plays away from Linton almost every time that we could. That's how much respect that I had for him. And that's heavy praise when he had only been on campus for 2 months.
Yeah.
And I think you're already kind of adjusting what you're doing as a play caller based on his presence alone. And this wasn't even the best of Steve Linton yet because he hadn't, he's still in the process of because he showed up here at about 2:15, Cowan. And I think he's telling everybody at Tech, they don't feed, everybody up at Syracuse like they do here. And there's not the nutrition and we lift a lot differently here. And then you look up and it's like, it seemed like overnight he was like at 228 and a good 228. I think at the end of spring, it was closer to 235. And I've stood next to him. He's 6'3", 6'4". So yeah, it's the first name that came to mind. And I think I'm very intrigued by the package that awaits under the tree because I think that this is like a guy that like not a lot of the folks in the Big 12 know about or have a good feel for.
Yeah.
And I'd be willing to bet that we get into the, maybe a month into the season. If he is what we think he is, we'll all be talking about or being asked about him quite a bit.
All oranges. Every meal up at Syracuse, I think. And, hey, God bless an orange, but you're not getting very far with oranges every meal. Before we're out of here, I wanted to throw a couple at you that came to my mind because I'm thinking big plays, obviously, when you're thinking explosiveness on the defensive side of things. So sacking the quarterback, taking the football away. And I think about, just based on some recent history, what they did a season ago, guys like Dadrion Taylor-Demerson. I think about Josiah Pierre. I think about Tony Bradford, who was getting after the quarterback a season ago. Yeah. Pierre may be the most impacted because of what he's asked to do in 2023 as it relates to those kind of things. But those are some other guys I do think are in this TNT kind of category defensively.
And I'm gonna add another one.
Right.
I think Tyler Owens belongs in this conversation. He is somebody that he's a measurables guy. He's the word twitchy, which means he just kind of moves differently, man. He rolls his hips and can change direction and do some different things that you can see. And I think when healthy, I mean, his games versus Oklahoma State last year and versus Ole Miss last year were really fun to watch because this is a player that was all over the place. He's around the ball. And he's a 6'3", 215-pound guy, man. And that's why I'm just trying to tell everybody it's not going to shock me in the slightest if this is an NFL conversation we're having as it relates to him and the draft and things like that. Again, assuming he stays healthy, assuming, he plays well and all that. But, I mean, he's got a lot there that you like, but explosiveness is exactly how I would explain his game.
I think that's a great addition and one that I'm just like week to week forgetting about. But you're going to be seeing a lot of him if he can stay healthy in 2023 as far as flashing. There's no doubt about that. Tyler Owens is a name to keep on your mind as we head into the season. Chris, enjoyed the time with you as always, man. Hope you have a beautiful, happy, and, well, hopefully safe 4th of July. So punks, Marlboros, short lighters, long lighters, whatever you got, man. We want you back in one piece on the other side.
Hot dogs, hand pounds, and artillery shells for everybody, man.
Oh, beautiful space. God done shed his grace on thee. You better thank it, boy. And thank Ray Charles, too. All right, Chris.
Yeah, I'm definitely the Ray Charles version of that instead of the Lee Greenwood, on some of those.
Ray goes,
woof. Yeah.
Every hair on my body's standing up right now. Hope you have a happy 4th of July out
there. Be careful.
Thanks for making us a part of your July 3rd. We'll see you for the next round right back here on Locked On Texas Tech.